Welcome to the Lawless Astrology channel. My name's Dabney and I'm an evolutionary astrologer. What we do on this channel is we look at the cosmos and we try to take the planetary energy and bring it down here to make sense of our own lives, to give us a little bit more peace and help us live a more conscious life. Today, I am in Park City, Utah. I am not home. I am at the Organization for Professional Astrology Conference. So shout out to Opa and all the people. If you're anybody who's attending sees this, hello. What I'm going to be talking about today is Pluto going direct. And I have been studying recently with James Burgess, who is a Sufi master. He's an astrologer, and he's done some amazing work on the Sabian symbols. And so I wanted to look at Pluto going direct, and I looked at the sign that Pluto will be going direct in and the degree to kind of get a feel for it. And then that just sort of led me down kind of to looking at like, what are we in for the next few months? Now with astrology, we have to remember there's a lot of different things going on that are competing for attention, that are working together in concert. It's all kind of this cosmic dance. So please understand I'm taking one piece of this, but it's a very powerful piece, which is Pluto. And remember how many videos people did when Pluto was going into Aquarius, myself included. Right? Like that was kind of the thing that everyone was like, whoa, this is a big deal. Everybody pay attention. And then it seemed like, myself included, we stopped talking about Pluto because Pluto wasn't doing much really cosmically, like with other planets. It wasn't having as much interaction as, say, Saturn and Neptune, or Mars did a lot. So, we all kind of took a little bit of a pause while Pluto was retrograde, because it kind of took a little bit of a break, like that forward momentum of kind of where it like burst forth, and then it went retrograde, and now it's bursting forth again. And I thought it was really interesting. It's bursting forth right before we have a lot going on in this country. So this is somewhat US centric because I am a United States citizen, and this is very up for me. But there's things going on all over the world that we can definitely feel this energy. And so, the shorthand for Pluto and Aquarius for a lot of astrologers became, power to the people and the American and French revolutions. Like these were, kind of themes that people were talking about and kind of taking back the will of the people. And it definitely hasn't felt like the will of the people. But what we have to recognize is this is a 20-year process. And so what I love about the Sabian symbols were not something that I understood when I first was exposed to them, decades ago. It was a little too esoteric for me. So the Sabian symbols were channeled by a woman. I believe her name was Elsie Wheeler. And then they were, for every single zodiac degree, there was an image. And we're going to talk about the zodiac images for Pluto in the first 5 degrees of Aquarius, because that's where we're going to be dealing in the next several months as it moves forward. So we have not really gotten past a certain degree. I should have looked this up beforehand, but Pluto's a 1 degree of Aquarius right now. And so that's where we're going to start this story. And before Pluto goes back again into retrograde next spring, it's going to make it all the way to 5 degrees of Aquarius. But then we're going to go back to 3 degrees. But we're never going to get back to this 1 and 2 degrees, which is really kind of where we are now. The 1, and very shortly will be the 2, and then the 3. And so those are the 3 points that I want to talk the most about. And if you enjoy this content, let me know as we go through this. Obviously, always share, like, if you are not a subscriber, please do subscribe, because there's people who were like, I haven't seen one of your videos in a long time, but I'd like you to see my videos. So if you subscribe, then I'll be in your feed, because the algorithm is like, it's just all over the place, like who gets in and who gets out. It's just incredible. So, but this was really, really an interesting exercise for me. So again, we have to keep in mind that there is going to be the Neptune-Saturn conjunction in Aries in February. There's all sorts of other things happening. Uranus is in Gemini. It's going to right back into Taurus. But there is weaving going on. There is a thread through all of this. And I thought that these first 5 degrees of Aquarius were really, really powerful for what we're going through. So everything that I'm going to be talking about, my interpretation is actually the interpretation of James Burgess. And I'm going to link his information for the first 5 degrees of Aquarius if you want to kind of get more, because he does a video for each one of the degrees. He's got, written information. As I'm studying with him, I'm really enjoying understanding these zodiac points a lot better. So keep in mind that these were channeled points that were then interpreted by, I believe, Mark Edmund Jones and then Dane Ruddier. And then James Burgess has kind of taken a more modern approach and really grounded them into something very practical. And so I'm really enjoying studying with him. Okay, so let's start this out. So now Pluto is in Aquarius at 1 degree. And the Sabian symbol for that, and you'll have to forgive me, I've got notes because there's a lot going on in my life. So it's an old Adobe mission. And so listening to James's descriptions and really kind of intuiting it myself, understanding, he talks a lot about a structure created for survival, made to last beyond our own life, building and focusing on what will outlive your life. What are your values? Building that what will last. So the beautiful thing about the Sabian symbols is they give you this image. So if you're kind of a visual person, and you can think metaphorically, think about an old Adobe mission. And I know Dane Ruddier kind of took that to the next level, and he said an old Adobe mission in California. And so basically what this is it's something that has lasted the test of time. And really it's because was important enough to dedicate energy and focus to. So that's where we are right now. So let's take this one first. And as I was reading about this and thinking about it, so much of the key to life, as many of us know, is about our energy and our intention and our focus. And why I don't think that that's kind of this new agey, we have to manifest something different. Manifestation or the law of attraction can kind of get shortcutted. Or it can kind of be like people who are a little bit untrustworthy, who are kind of telling you that life is just this easy thing. Like, oh, I just need to manifest a man in my life, or I just need to manifest, enough money to pay the bills. But manifestation, what I mean by that is you have to know what you want. Once you get clear on what you want and what you need, you can have that. But you have that because you suddenly start putting energy and focus and attention toward that. So oftentimes I find most people I know don't know what they want. Most people that are in crisis or have a question or want something, I ask them what they want and they don't know. Now, they may say, oh, I want to be rich. Okay, well, are you willing to put all of your energy into being rich? Or I want a husband. Okay, but have you done the hard work of looking at why your relationships have been sabotaged in the past? Like, why do you self-sabotage? Or why do you attract people that are unavailable? Or why, have you done the hard work of removing those energetic blocks? Have you done the hard work of really sitting with yourself and understanding why what you truly think you want may not be what you want? So not that long ago, I did a reading with somebody. And I've actually had this happen multiple times, and it was true in my own life, to be honest with you, where sometimes we need to be confronted with that hard truth. So I want us to kind of get out of the idea of this sort of new agey manifestation as just everything is being positive, because ultimately we have to get clear on what we want, and we have to then do the hard work of getting what we want. And that does mean not being afraid all the time. I'm the first one to, right now in this kind of political climate, I get scared sometimes. I wake up and I'm depressed, and I talk to my friends, and we kind of, build each other up, at different times, like when one of us is like, paralyzed or whatever. But the bottom line is, if I am so fearful of something, that fear does build, because I'm putting so much energy and attention into my fears about what could happen versus actually having a clear vision of what I want, what I think can happen, and what am I willing to do to get there. So when I talk about manifestation, that's what I'm saying. I just want to be really clear on that I don't think there are shortcuts. I don't think there's a spiritual bypass. I don't think we can all say everything's love and light. I think each person has their own unique roadmap, and we all have our own unique reason that we are incarnated at this time. And we have our own unique piece of the puzzle. And I think we're going to start to really discover those pieces of the puzzle in the coming months. I think the coming 5 months, while Pluto is direct, is going to be an incredible opportunity for us to see ourselves in a totally new way, because we're all going to go through a lot. As you know, things have been speeding up, right? Like, it's kind of like the pace at which everything is happening just seems unreal. Like, and there can be this nostalgia. Jupiter is in Cancer. Like, we all have this sort of nostalgia. I remember saying to my friend the other day, who I haven't seen in a while, God, I just wish it was 2014 again. Like, remember how easy life was, and my kid was little, and like we, were having fun. Like, we went to Vegas together. It was just kind of like we didn't really have to read the news every day to like be freaked out about what's the next shoe that's going to fall. We didn't have to make plans for, what's going to happen on Saturday. But that's not life. And there's a richness in what we're going through. And I'm not justifying it. But as I'm kind of going through all of this, and as I'm looking at these Sabian symbols, it's really interesting to me how the Purple Revolution, it shot up and it shot back down. And so many people in my comments some people were really supportive of it, and other people were like, we are not there yet. And the only thing I was advocating for that, because I thought it was interesting, was not making things worse. Like, if somebody is coming over to kind of recognize that they wish they had made a different choice, it was about really kind of pulling in and not just like attacking, because I don't think attacking anybody is ever going to be helpful. So I was kind of advocating like unity in the sense of like, don't attack people. However, I really I see that people are not there yet. And so how are we going to get there? Okay. So symbolically, what is your Adobe mission? So right now, but like for the next month, we're going to be at 1 Aquarius. And you can read that, like I said, I'll put the information below if you want to really dig more into the Sabian symbol, if it's interesting to you. But what is lasting for you? If there are challenges, you are able to put faith into leaning into what is your higher self telling you. What's interesting is why things are going so fast in some way, other than cosmically, and I think politically speaking, the people who are making tremendous progress right now, progress meaning getting their way, they have been dedicated to this cause for a really long time. And it is their central focus. So you can almost say they have manifested this. Like, they're dogs with a bone, and they're not going to let go. And so that is something that I don't see equally necessarily from democratic leadership. And that's where we need to get to it as the people, because this is about people, Aquarius energy, Pluto is we have to explain to them that we need them to have a strong vision. And that means new people. That means people that are willing to, articulate a vision for our future that we can be centrally focused on. You have these people who've written this Project 2025, and I read something that 50% of Project 2025 has already been implemented in the first 9 months. Where is our Project 2025? Where is our Project 2026? What do we stand for? What do we want? What is our vision? Sometimes when things get too easy or comfortable, we forget to have a vision, right? So our lives, maybe weren't that tough, it was incrementally getting harder, but and I can only speak for myself. I know life has been hard for everybody for a long time. It continues to be challenging. So again, please understand when I'm saying these things, there are generalizations, of course, and I don't think that everyone's experience is a monolith. Okay, so if I'm longing for 2014 because I had, a fun year, that doesn't mean somebody else didn't have a horrible year in 2014. I'm just using it as an example and grounding the astrology right now. And I think it's somewhat undeniable that we all sort of feel this, I don't want to say impending doom. That sounds much more dramatic than I want to be. But I do think there is an impending feeling of destabilization, like the unknown, but yet the need to prepare. And you don't know what you're preparing for. And what I guess I would say with this Adobe mission, it is about building a structure for survival. What is survival look like for you? And what are you trying to survive? What are you protecting? Are you protecting your family? Are you protecting your career? What are the things that you want to focus on? And that's where, so that was sort of the question that James had asked. What is your Adobe mission? And how can you put faith in it? How can you believe, genuinely believe that is something that we can have? We can have universal health care. We can have a country without gerrymandered borders within our states. We can have a country where different races can coexist much, much better than they currently do, where people don't feel threatened at a historically Black college, right? Where funding can't just be ripped away from universities. Okay. So next month, we move into a new phase. So that's the first challenge. And that, as we approach this weekend, as we approach what is happening, as things escalate, what are we committed to? And that manifestation, meaning, can we put faith in that? Can we do the hard work of clearing out any blockages or fears and then putting our intention and our energies behind it? Okay, by next month, mid-month, we are at Aquarius 2 degrees of Aquarius, and an unexpected thunderstorm. Even though we want to cement our lives into the future, nature always wins in the end. That's what James Burgess said. So if you think about an unexpected thunderstorms, he was talking about roofs can be ripped off of a building, a structure, something that you feel was there to protect you. And in an instant, nature has a way of having the last say. And so this is about, what do we do in the face of these harder truths or these harder traumas in some cases? Are you all aware that in Alaska, there was a typhoon within the past 24 hours and 1,500 people were displaced? And there's been no mainstream media coverage of this. I learned about this through the internet and then I looked it up. But 2 villages in Alaska have been completely destroyed by a typhoon. That's that Aquarius 2 energy. And I want us to recognize that, we're sort of in that now, right? We're at the point where there are big things happening. And we have to realize that how we cope with these more challenging times and aspects of life are what give us the grit to survive. They're the things that help us recognize and fine-tune who we are as individuals. So we never want tragedy to strike anywhere, but tragedy has been striking. And do we fall apart and become a puddle? Do we, dash out and join the Red Cross and, fly to Alaska to help people? These are the questions that we ask ourselves in times when there's an unexpected thunderstorm. How well prepared have we been? And if we weren't prepared, what can we learn from it? So that's a little bit of the energy that we find ourselves in right now as well, because these challenging things, like topics such as plagues and war and natural disasters, these are all in the forefront of people's minds in recent years. And how do we deal with it? Okay, so Aquarius 3. So as we kind of get a little deeper into the winter, I think even in November, we get to Aquarius 3, a deserter from the Navy. And so this image, there comes a time when we refuse to accept what is unacceptable. So James really talks about this, and I think you can kind of feel into this as well, that the image is that of someone who was patriotic, who signed up for this duty, who made a commitment, but maybe it became so untenable for them that they made the decision that this was not right for them and they left. And so that's the new energy that is emerging. And that's where maybe the Purple Revolution would have been like a little bit better timed, is when more people are waking up. Because I don't think there are enough people that are questioning what's happening. But they may not question what happens until after the unexpected storm. And so if we kind of see this like cyclical linear dance of the Sabian symbols within the degrees of Pluto, we can see that like there's a need to, lay down and declare what we believe in, and like want to create something that will outlive us, and what are our values. And then a storm comes along, and what do you do with that? How do you deal with those storms? And then we have now, as we progress into the winter, we have people kind of questioning their own decisions. People saying, my morality, my soul values are not aligned with what I originally signed up for. So when your higher self says enough, it becomes a wake-up point. There will always be those who blindly accept tyranny, who go along with it, who want that power. But for most of us, there comes a point of recognition beyond your conditioning, beyond the whatever you grew up with. Like think about how many people just vote the way their parents voted without really doing the research or thinking through the impacts on society or the impacts on themselves. So that unexpected storm absolutely can then lead to this courage, clarity, self-awareness, and a place where you maybe examine your loyalties and question them. And that's a questioning point. It doesn't necessarily mean joining the other side. It means I question this and I no longer want to do this, right? So that's a first step. As we move, I'm not going to talk as much about these two, but I want to give you a little hope because I think faith and hope, things that we've talked about, we have to have something to hold on to as we progress, past this Navy deserter, as we progress past the point where people are starting to feel the consequences. Remember, we talk about touching the stove. And in our own lives, this doesn't have to be about politics. This is about spiritual awakening. This is about the process in our own lives. Like, what are we all going through? What poor decisions have we made? Where have we not prepared? Where have we not had a vision? Where are we caught off guard by the impending storm? And again, this doesn't have to be politics. It can be unexpected illnesses. It can be, the loss of friendships. It can be the loss of a dissolution of a marriage. It can be a loss of money. Like, there's a lot of things that can come along and, shake you, your, addiction with a child. Like, there's things that we deal with in our lives. And that 3 is where we kind of say, like, what do I really believe in? Like, what are my convictions? Who am I? What does my soul say is enough? And then we get to Aquarius 4. By January, I believe we're in Aquarius 4, a Hindu healer. And this is really much more about spiritual focus takes a center stage, where wisdom teachings emerge and they become more accessible. Like, you can hear things in your own mind, like the clouds clear a little bit, and you have a little bit more clarity about your own inner wisdom and your own faith. And that's a really powerful, potent place for us to then get to, where we have a little bit more comfort in the knowledge of our soul's teachings, of the wisdom that is available to us through something higher than ourselves. And this one I'm not going to touch base on much at all, but if you like this kind of Sabian symbol story content, let me know, and I will incorporate it a little bit more for these bigger transits. But Aquarius 5, we're into this before, it gets all the way to Aquarius 5 before Pluto turns retrograde again in May. And Aquarius 5 is a council of ancestors. So this is building upon what went before. So we talk, everyone talks about the Constitution, but I don't know how many people know that the Constitution was based on Native American teachings from a New York tribe. I believe it was the Iroquois. I could be wrong on that one. But it was a lot of women. It was a matriarchal society. So a lot of the sort of checks and balances and some of the things that we value have come from the teachings of being more, these democratic values came from a council of ancestors. And so I think we also need to think about, and they may not literally be our ancestors, but we all have a council of ancestors to draw on. What came before and the lessons that can be learned to go forward in a more constructive way. And so we'll talk more about those last 2 Sabian symbols, if this is content that you're interested in, when we get closer to that time. But for now, the 1, 2, 3 degrees are I think the ones that we're swimming in, with Pluto going direct. And take the time to think through in your own life. And also you can see it reflected on the greater stage of the world right now, where we've all had to take a step back and kind of question what is worth putting our efforts and attentions into, and what do we want our legacy to be? Like, what do we want to leave for our children? And, how are we going to deal with the impending storm? And then, how can we deal with waking up to certain realities that may be uncomfortable, but like are true to us, and being true to ourselves? So that's my Pluto in the Sabian Symbols First 5 Degrees of Aquarius video. Please check out James Burgess's work. I will link that stuff below. Always love your comments, and if you are at the OPA Astrology Conference, come up and say hi to me. So, as always, there is a reason and a season for it all. The universe is conspiring to help us. There is a roadmap. Each one of our roadmaps looks so different. So don't put pressure on yourself to do something that may be what somebody else is being called to do. Okay, you are unique in your own individual way, and you have something, and that is going to be waking up in you at this time. So be on the lookout for that. What is your legacy? How are you dealing with all of these impending storms? So until next time, stargazers.